Hey, what's up guys? My name is Sal, and this is another expedition log. On today's episode, we'll be visiting a mall in North Carolina that, until just recently, sat vacant atop a dank wasteland of unstable marsh and existed as the archetype of lapsed tenancy in a shopping center. This mall has lived many lives and will continue for years, but not necessarily in retail. So come take a walk with me through the Morrisville Outlet Mall in the Research Triangle region of North Carolina. But first, a word from our sponsor. The amazing feats of strength from Maestro Valentin Decool, a strongman, a legendary circus performer, and power juggler from the post-Soviet era.
Valentin Decool. Вес каждой гири 75 килограмм. Not great, not terrible.
Valentin Decool.
On June 30th, 1981, acting behind his brand new holding company, Triangle Investors, Byrne F. Ballard Jr. procured a construction loan from the Branch Banking and Trust Company in the amount of $3.9 million. With this, he purchased 19.9 acres of land in Cedar Fork Township, Wake County, North Carolina, and they began work immediately on what was to be known as the Research Triangle Factory Outlet Mall. By August 19, 1981, Carolina Power and Light were busy getting the electricity and power lines installed, and within just 1 year, the mall was complete, holding its grand opening and formal dedication on March 16, 1982. This mall has undergone tons of renovations over the years, and I'm not too sure if the entrance that we're looking at right now to the food court is original. So if you're from this area, your input's super valuable to this. I'd love to know if this little drawbridge was there, if all of the facade work that you see here on the outside, if that was original, let me know in the comments. If it wasn't original, and if you didn't see this back in the 80s and early 90s, also let me know. I'd love to know if this was added later, or if this was an original part of the mall. And make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so that you can get notified of future video releases, because I have a ton planned. And I really appreciate every one of you who subscribe to the channel, who follow me on social media, and who join the Discord. All of those links are down in the description below.
Here's something new. Service Atari.
Our widget, video chat, football. Sir, that's here.
We meet again, then.
Yes, a little game of Space Invaders, perhaps. What shall we play for?
For fun, of course. No other company offers you as many different video game cartridges as Atari.
There were a total of 21 stores occupying the mall on opening day, with 6 more to open over the course of the next 6 months. Capitalizing on the initial success of the mall, Mr. Bullard refinanced the mortgage in December of 1982, finding a better rate and lower repayments through the North Carolina Federal Savings and Loan Association based out of Charlotte. The mall would enjoy tremendous success in its formative years, and at the peak of the Research Triangle Factory Outlet Mall's success, Mr. Bullard sold the mall on February 19, 1985 to Copley Investors Limited Partnership for an undisclosed amount. My guess is that it was sold for at least $4 million to cover the costs of the loan that Mr. Bullard took out. And that's also based on the activity of the mall in the next decade. On February 4th, 1991, a new partnership was formed called the Triangle Factory Stores Limited Partnership, which was comprised of the general partner Prime International Incorporated, based out of Chicago, Illinois. A few days later, an agreement was drawn up for Copley to sell the mall to Prime for $5.1 million, with the intent to expand and redevelop the mall, nearly doubling its size. About 1 year later, on January 7, 1992, a new agreement was drawn up. However, this time the terms were solidified. Prime International secured a loan from Kemper Investors Life Insurance Company for an astounding $20,500,000 and agreed to purchase the mall from Copley, most likely for the aforementioned amount they agreed upon, leaving nearly $15 million left over that they would use for renovations. Prime went to work immediately on the Research Triangle Factory Outlet Mall and its renovations, and by May of 1993, the shopping center had its grand reopening as the brand new 181,000 square foot Marketplace Mall. Prime would continue to fill the mall with new stores, and to bring new dining options to the food court, and by 1996 they acquired Saks off Fifth Avenue as their biggest tenant and now senior anchor. And just 2 years after this, the mall was rebranded yet again from the Marketplace Mall to the Prime Outlets in 1998. After the turn of the millennium, this mall began declining rapidly. Tenants were leaving due to raised rent, and there was lower foot traffic because of competing and more successful malls in the direct area. And this location was less than desirable for any future construction because it resided on wetlands. It was a marshy area and the ground is very soft, so it's not desirable to build on, thereby limiting potential attractions to this direct area. Not to mention, the mall was also in a 60 decibel constant noise level zone because it's within about 1 mile from the Raleigh-Durham International Airport. In 2005, York Properties of Raleigh took over leasing for Prime Outlets, but they stopped marketing for the property in January 2006, less than a year later. It was at this time that Prime placed the mall for sale for a humble $6 million, which was a steal since at the time the property had a massive $19.7 million tax valuation. So on March 30th, 2006, Govind and Pratik Chandak bought the mall for $6.2 million, and they hired HVS International of Chicago, who conducted a study of the nearby Raleigh Convention Center to analyze and evaluate the business and operations for 2 months before they would render a decision on how they planned to redevelop the site. These new owners brought nothing to the mall except a new name. During their first year of ownership, the Chandaks renamed the Prime Outlets to the Morrisville Outlets. But if you look closely throughout the video, you can still see multiple instances of signage of the old Prime Outlets. Over their years of ownership, the mall would empty out, and it would succumb to the forces of multiple nearby and more successful malls, such as the Streets at South Point in Durham, which was 20 minutes west, and the Crabtree Valley Mall in Raleigh, which was also 20 minutes, but east. These two malls alone would draw most of the shoppers away from Morrisville, and by 2010, the Morrisville Outlets were nearly vacant. Payphones are becoming the great white buffalo in dead malls. No, there was no dial tone. But I had to try anyway, right? On January 1st, 2012, the last true vestige of retail would die off at Morrisville when the Saks off Fifth Avenue shuttered its doors permanently. This marked the end of retail for the mall, but not necessarily the end of its life. In June of 2013, a group of investors from the United States, Hong Kong, and mainland China purchased the 192,000 square foot mall for $12 million, nearly double what the Chandak family paid in 2006.
When you live and work around the water, you put in some pretty long days. But you know, I guess that's what makes us really enjoy our nights.
Best beer for the best time of the day. Miller High Life.
The new owners immediately announced an ambitious $130 million plan to redevelop the site into a stunning and diverse complex, with a 5-star hotel, a cultural center, and an array of Chinese retail businesses inside a large part of the existing mall structure, with the main anchor proposed as an Asian grocery store. The Carolina China Council was closely involved in the redevelopment plans, championed by its president Lian Xi. You can see elements of this around the mall in the video, with pictures of the purported plans on the walls in the food court. These are some of those pictures, and as you can see, they wanted to really go for that Chinatown vibe. Those pictures are from 2013. I filmed them all 5 years after those plans were announced. So obviously nothing came of that, but even the new owners, which you'll hear about in a second, they didn't decide to take them down either. There's a lot of remnants around this mall from its past. Like this ice cream machine, which has ice pops, ice cream, or ice cream bar for sale, which are all $1 a piece, and you just press that button. This machine looks like it's from 1965. All these places in the food court have been closed for years. Most of the stuff in this mall has been closed for years, and it blows my mind that nobody did anything with it. The Epic at UNC training location was at Morrisville Outlets for a few years until the newest owners took over. But that was the only tenant. Aside from a couple of those restaurants, the UNC training center was the only tenant. And I'm pretty sure that light bulb has been going on and off for years. When the multinationals owned this mall, their proposed vision was to inject Chinatown into this mall. And they went back and forth for years between the partners themselves and also with the Carolina China Council, because they couldn't decide what they wanted to do with the mall. And ultimately, nothing ever came of it, and the only thing that you see here today that even shows they tried to stamp their mark on this mall are these Chinese lanterns. That's all that exists of the proposed Chinatown renovation. That's all they did, nothing else. It's a real shame because this property is very well kept, and it seems to be a great location. Given all of the comments I've read online, people miss this place. In 2019, Equator Capital Management and OCS Capital purchased the mall from the multinational partnership for an undisclosed amount, but it was probably somewhere in the $10 to $15 million range. And then, in June 2019, Connecticut-based lender Knighthead Funding loaned $34 million to the new owners to convert the Morrisville Outlet Mall into a massive office complex, which they dubbed the Factory. The plans show sprawling office spaces and up to 30-foot tall windows to create interior spaces filled with an abundance of natural light. Most of the existing mall structure would remain, and the renovations would consist of remodeling the exterior and creating less but much larger interior spaces suited for offices. Construction is set to begin immediately, and they are scheduled to open the office spaces by spring of 2020. Equator Capital has successfully managed the conversion of multiple properties in the past, including 2 in New York that Knighthead themselves also worked on with them. So both parties have extreme confidence that these renovations and redevelopments are going to happen, and they will be successful. I'd like to thank you all out there, the Quite Studios Legion of Explorers, for all of your recent engagement on my videos and for all of the positive support you guys have been giving me. It means the world to me when you guys engage with me on the channel, when you share out my content, when we get into these conversations, because that's why I do this. I do this to keep the vision of these places alive for future generations. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my patrons and the Dev Malls of Discord community, who you can join in a 24/7 discussion by joining the Dead Malls of Discord server with the link down in the description of this video. It's a really great place. You should come join. I'll be there waiting for you. All of you guys rock. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Take care and have a fantastic day.